From the Chronicle of Higher Education, November 17, 2014, Rachel Toor. The ever-controversial and polarizing figure in the literary world, Joyce Carol Oates. For some, she's a beacon of inspiration, affectionately dubbed JCO, as if she were a household brand like CBS or BMW. However, there's an opposing sentiment that often arises when her name is mentioned, accompanied by groans and laments about the sheer volume of her output. It's as if her prolific productivity is an affront to the writing universe. Isn't it fascinating how the accomplishments of others can awaken the dormant pangs of petty jealousy within us? I admit, I'm occasionally susceptible to this sentiment. It can't be denied, though, observing someone else's relentless output can stir up a sense of inadequacy within oneself. And that's just ludicrous, isn't it? The achievements of one person don't subtract anything from the achievements of another, neither from yours nor mine. The laborious toil of a fellow writer should serve as nothing more than a wellspring of inspiration, or perhaps a gentle nudge in the right direction. So, here's a thought that's been occupying my mind lately: what sets apart those highly productive writers from the rest of us? What traits and habits propel them to churn out pages upon pages of words? Allow me to share a few insights that have occurred to me. First off, they summarily dismiss the notion of writer's block, much like others would shun gluten. True, there are those who genuinely can't stomach that much maligned protein, but then there are others who hastily attribute their dyspepsia or carb-induced joy to it. Maybe abstaining from a major food group makes adhering to a diet easier, as opposed to constantly monitoring portion sizes of tempting pastries and pasta puttanesca. Indeed, there's a comfort in diagnosing a problem, in linking one's suffering to a common ailment. Similarly, blaming the elusive muse's absence is far more convenient than admitting that writing is a laborious process demanding discipline and sacrifice. The productive wordsmiths don't resort to excuses when the going gets tough. They treat writing as the occupation it truly is. They show up, dutifully punch the clock, and then clock out. There's no romanticizing about it. They impose upon themselves a quota. Sometimes it's a strict butt-in-share time frame, while at other times it's a word count goal. Basic mathematics allows you to discern how swiftly 1,000 words a day accumulate into a full-fledged book. These authors have a knack for wielding deadlines, be they externally imposed or set by themselves, to stay the course. Here's another thing: they don't incessantly chatter about their projects. Some writers derive more enjoyment from discussing writing than actually engaging in the act itself. Others relish in reveling for years over their chosen subjects, delivering conference presentations, crafting journal articles, vying for grants, until they gradually lose interest in the very topic they're supposed to be developing. An academically prolific writer once confided that he often becomes engrossed in an idea, devoting months of effort before realizing it's a dead end. He keeps his pursuit of it a secret until it's well underway. Only when substantial progress has been made does he open up about it. I've been accused of being mysterious about my own work, and truthfully, it's not about being secretive. Some pieces thrive with extensive discussion, while others simply don't. The belief in oneself and one's work, perhaps it's confidence, maybe a touch of Quixote-like delusion, but to be a prolific writer demands a deep conviction that what you're doing holds significance. If you're perpetually plagued by self-doubt at every step, you're bound to backtrack. A writer I know relishes saying that over the years, he's trained his family to anticipate his absence from certain engagements, as they're well aware his work takes precedence. Being ready to seem a tad narcissistic and even arrogant, despite not perceiving yourself that way, is a necessity. The work comes first. And, let's not forget, they might indulge in a bit of self-loathing if they slack off. Alongside the requisite arrogance and narcissism, a smidgen of self-loathing proves to be a potent motivator for accomplishment. Believing it's your solemn duty to be productive, and feeling remorseful when you aren't, creates a dynamic that fuels progress. One intriguing truth they grasp is that significant breakthroughs often happen when they're not actively working. I find solace in this passage from Graham Greene's novel, The End of the Affair, I was trying to write a book that simply would not come. I did my daily 500 words, but the characters never began to live. So much in writing depends on the superficiality of one's days. One may be preoccupied with shopping and income tax returns and chance conversations, but the stream of the unconscious continues to flow, undisturbed, solving problems, planning ahead. One sits down sterile and dispirited at the desk, and suddenly the words come as though from the air. Productive writers recognize this cycle all too well. Sometimes the answers emerge while walking the dog. They have faith in that process and don't grow anxious when the pages momentarily cease to accumulate. Oh, their passion for their projects. Too often, scholarly work emerges devoid of fervor. Some academics require so much time to complete a book that they scarcely recall what ignited their interest in the subject initially. The productive crowd, though, tends to be restless and seeks fresh thrills. They revel in learning. When chipping away at something for years or even decades, you might end up with either a pile of dust or a meticulously crafted work of art. Discerning which outcome you're steering toward can be perplexing. In such instances, it might help to delude yourself into channeling the artistic spirits of Donatello or Brancusi, even if your current view is of mere shavings. Another vital insight: know thy strengths. Dave Eggers once likened his early experiences of writing fiction to driving a car while dressed in a clown suit. It's crucial to pinpoint the projects and approaches that resonate with you, allowing you to harness your genuine skills to maximum effect. It's possible that academia's struggle with writing stems from an attempt to present a sophisticated version of oneself. Consequently, their writing can ring hollow. Yet, these very individuals often discuss their ideas in a manner that captivates, captivating listeners for hours. The finest writing mirrors a conversation between author and reader. Far too much scholarly work reads like someone driving a car in a clown suit. If only these folks could translate their teaching style onto the page, be themselves, that would undoubtedly enhance their output. Ah, the voracious reading habits of these productive souls. It never ceases to amaze me when professors claim they lack time for leisurely reading. How else can one strive to craft something worth reading? If you don't believe your work should offer a gratifying reading experience, most readers will simply avert their gaze. Productive writers prioritize refining their craft and eagerly pilfer techniques from admired authors. Reading morphs into an exercise in mental preparation for writing. Anyone who has ever assigned or undertaken an imitation exercise can attest to this. The art of concluding a draft. Just like relationships, beginnings are replete with excitement and buoyant optimism. Middles can feel comfortable. You settle into a rhythm that's, for a time, enjoyable. Yet, sooner or later, many of us slam against a barrier. Whether it's disillusionment, ennui, or self-doubt, we encounter stagnation. Productive authors know that forging ahead through these challenging phases to complete a full draft is essential. At least, with a complete draft in hand, you have a foundation to build upon. They often juggle multiple projects simultaneously. Naturally, when you confront that inevitable wall, the temptation to abandon ship and embark on a new, thrilling endeavor can be overwhelming. As mentioned earlier, beginnings are a breeze. While this might leave a trail of unfinished drafts, it also has its merits. Some ideas demand time to ferment. Setting them aside to delve into something shorter and more manageable can make re-engaging with the bigger project easier. The concept of fallowing and crop rotation translates to a bountiful harvest in the end. Another practice they adhere to is ending a session at a point that eases into the next. Certain writers halt mid-sentence. It's consistently easier to continue than to initiate anew. If you're aware of your destination the next time you sit down, the journey becomes swifter. Initiating momentum requires an activation energy, and any reduction in this cost hastens the process. Last but not least, they don't let themselves off the hook. If only I had 3 hours of uninterrupted quiet daily. If only I had the perfect workspace. If only my unruly hair didn't dampen my spirits. Writers are often met with well-meaning individuals who say, "I'd love to write a book, if only I had the time," as if it were merely a matter of securing a leisurely interlude to sit at a computer and muse away. Time materializes only if you elevate it to a priority. Productive writers avoid the indulgence of convenient excuses. When self-doubt raises its head, "I can't do this, it's too arduous, I'll never pen another exceptional sentence," they retort to themselves, "Cease your self-pity and get to work." Lastly, they acknowledge the absence of shortcuts, magic solutions, miraculous exercises, or incantations. I remain wary of strategies that promise to diminish the time and effort required for excellent output. Write your entire dissertation in 5-minute fragments daily? Complete an entire book in 60 days? Perhaps you'd also like to attempt the Kit Kat diet or invest in a splendid bridge? There are no secret tricks to make the process breezier. What you have at your disposal are habits and practices that, over time, transform into conduits for accomplishment.